after the effects of the west wind on earth and sky, its effect is seen on water, on the seas. Here are Mediterranean and Atlantic oceans are seen in these lines, further 14 lines. Let us go through those lines. Thou who didst waken from his summer dreams the blue Mediterranean, where he lay, lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams, beside a pumic isle in Bay's Bay, and so in sleep old palaces and towers quivering within the waves' intenser day, all overgrown with azure moss and flowers so sweet, the sense faints picturing them, thou for whose path. So, the effect of the west wind on Mediterranean Sea. Thou, here west wind is again personified, and here the seas, Mediterranean and Atlantic, are also personified, as the poet has personified the seasons of autumn and spring, and he has personified the storm, the year. Again, here west wind is personified, and Mediterranean is also personified. And here we are to imagine that Mediterranean is a person who is in sleep, and he is in sleep and in his summer dreams, where he lay, lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams, and he was sleeping, lulled by the sounds, soothing sounds of the rivers which fall into that ocean Mediterranean. So the Mediterranean is in its sleep and lulled by the crystalline streams beside a pumic isle in Bay's Bay, near Naples, beside a pumic isle of lava in Bay's Bay, and so in sleep and in his dream. We are to imagine that the sea in his dream can see old palaces and towers quivering within the waves' intenser day. And he is seeing in his sleep old palaces and towers, and they are just as the surface of the water of the sea is quivering, the dream can be seen, and here the palaces and towers are quivering within the waves' intenser day, when in the daytime the waves are intense. So, all overgrown with azure moss and flowers so sweet, and here in the sea, mosses and flowers are all growing in the water. And when one sees these mosses and flowers, the sense faints picturing them. It feels that they are getting faint and they are intoxicated by the fragrance of the flowers. Thou, for whose path the Atlantic's level powers cleave themselves into chasms, while far below the sea blooms, and the oozy woods, which wear the sapless foliage of the ocean, know thy voice, and suddenly grow grey with fear, and tremble and despoil themselves, O here. Here, before the west wind blew, when the west wind blows on the Atlantic, its water is thrown into a state of agitation. Waves rise to one side and waves rise to the other side as well. Between these waves, there a hollow is produced, and it seems that the intense waves has torn the water into two parts. Before the west wind blew, the surface of the Atlantic was level, but now, with the effect of the intense waves of the air, it seems as if the Atlantic has cut a path on its surface for the west wind to pass over it. There are lots of plants growing at the bottom of the ocean. These plants are wet, but have no sap. They are sapless foliage. When the west wind begins to blow on the Atlantic, these plants are fearful, and they are aware of the arrival of the west wind, and out of fear they tremble. In this state of fear, they shed their leaves, just as in autumn the trees shed their leaves. Similarly, the plants at the bottom of the ocean also shed their leaves. The approaching of the west wind is a signal to these plants to shed their leaves. Hence, the plants are imagined as feeling frightened of the west wind. So, they know, the plants know thy voice and suddenly grow grey with fear, and the plants grow grey with fear and tremble and despoil themselves, and they tremble and despoil themselves. Oh, here again, at the end of this part, Shelley urges the west wind to listen to his song, listen to his poem and his message, and he wants us to convey the power of the west wind, the uh, the power of the west wind, which is very much there, overpowering each and every aspect of nature. So, students, read and go through the lines and try to interpret and see the imagery, the personifications, and the similes, and how the west wind is overpowering. You can feel the effect of west wind under the in the bottom of the sea as well, and nothing is spared, whether it is sky, whether it is earth, or the sea, surface of the sea, or the bottom of the sea. So, the effect of the west wind is everywhere, pervading everywhere. Thank you, students. Let us meet in the next class with the remaining part of the poem. Thank you.